Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's still morning in Nigeria, so good morning. Today I'm going to be presenting on research data in climate change adaptation and mitigation strategies and agricultural innovation systems in the Niger Delta. My name is Michael Ikehi from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Well, we'll begin with an introduction. Well, climate and its impacts on agriculture have been wide. I'm sure you have started looking at mitigation. So a close look at the picture here shows you the focus of some of these studies on erosion, climate change and its impacts on erosion, dry lands, evaporation or transpiration, scorching of farmlands due to temperature rises, flooding, poverty, and hunger, of course. And these studies have led to a serious important aspect, which is the adaptation and mitigation approaches. Several studies as agriculture remains profitable. At the same time, these findings mention some strategies like adaptation method, mitigation, all with the hope of improving agricultural production. So consequently, several strategies for improving agriculture has been recommended. However, driving changes through research recommendations should go beyond generating ideas. Indications are that sustaining improvements in farming involves a functional agricultural innovation system. At this point, I felt it was important to give a little highlight of agricultural innovation systems, uh, which is a system that links people, infrastructure, and institutions to generate ideas, knowledge, technology for profitable food production. Talked about it. So here is it, an agricultural innovation system. The structure, how it looks like. If you look at the triangle, you find out that at the edges of the triangle, there are three major institutions, or rather fostering enablements that ensure that agricultural innovation system is sustainable. The first example is research and agricultural development agencies, such as research institutions and other agencies that are interested in finding problems. And then you have the enabling environment and policies. This relates to agencies that are interested in propelling or founding policies and setting enabling environments. Then there's governmental and non-governmental agencies, or innovations from different angles, especially the research institutions, gets to the farmers. At the middle of the triangle, you can see the farmers, and the three dots there highlights new knowledge, improved indigenous knowledge, innovative processes and products. So you can see the arrows moving back and forth, meaning there is a synergy, there's a link between agencies, enabling environment, and research institutions. And these whole three agencies work together to service the need of the farmer, who is at the middle, to receive new knowledge, improve indigenous knowledge, and as well as receive innovative processes or products to handling issues of climate change. So why this study? Even with research turnouts, improved farming and sustainable food production is far from being achieved. And I'm sure most of us can attest to that, especially most of us down in Nigeria and other developing countries. For example, adequate food supply, especially in pandemic time, such as the novel coronavirus, proved to be a challenge, even for regions such as the Niger Delta, that is naturally endowed for agriculture. A quick and the nine states that makes up the region. Now, the states are found and they adopted green because of their agricultural capacity in line with the natural endowment they possess. Now, a serious issue within this period of COVID-19 was people breaking the lockdown rules because of hunger. The food supply in the region was not enough to make up for the demands. So the question became, the results of findings that has recommended improvements in agriculture, how have these studies actually had an impact at the local level where those studies are supposed to make significant contributions? So some studies blame the inability of farmers in the region to adapt research recommended strategies on the coastal nature of the region, some on the presence and dependence of crude oil, and some on low awareness. Most farmers are not even aware of these findings that these researchers continue to turn out every day. If you click in, if you go to Google now and search for climate change and Niger Delta, you'll find a whole lot of studies. But the question is, these studies, the people, the target, are they actually aware of these findings? Then some other blame it on government and its agencies, such as poor policy framework, and others on poor adaptation capacity of the farmers. You make recommendations and you don't check if these farmers can actually adopt these recommendations based on their financial, economic, social, and even cultural conditions surrounding them. Okay, why some or all of these blames may likely be the case. This study wonders how innovative the recommended strategies were for adoption and how they foster the cause of AIS in the locality. You know, we looked at AIS as a synergy between relevant agencies. So it's no longer the time of research, turning out data and feeding it to extension agents to pass on to the farmers. And that's the end of the finding. The closest to correction of that will be the farmers giving feedback through the extension agents to the research institutions. But that has not really solved the problem because the relevant agencies, they are supposed to come in. Where are they? What are they doing? And what has they contributed to ensure that agriculture remains productive? So the study evaluated research recommended strategies based on frequency of recommend, the frequency of and which ones are frequently recommendations, then the cost implication of adoption of the strategies for farmers in the Niger Delta. Also, the study examined the innovativeness of the strategies in fostering AIS in the region. The study relied on secondary and primary data. I analyzed 129 previous studies after a series of search and strings to eliminate those who doesn't fit in the criteria set up. Then I also interviewed the 282 extension agents from the region, those that were willing to participate in the study in this period. Secondary data were collected using structured document review guide. I set up a template that will extract relevant information for analyzing, for answering my research questions, actually. the information I sought were the strategies that were often mentioned in each study, the who is involved in carrying out the study, and how often are those strategies mentioned. So the instrument was later modified into a rating scale. So having collected the list of the strategies, I turned it into a rating scale and sent it to the extension agents to collect primary data. So the copies of the rating scale were administered on the respondent via email and telephone. Of course, the restriction in COVID-19 means that one can't go out and you can't interact without the distancing recommended, social distancing recommended. So I made a phone call to those I could call, to those that have email. I forwarded the instrument and explained how the data can be generated, or rather responded. To achieve objective one, frequency was used to analyze the univariate data. So I just looked at the number of recommendations, the number of studies that recommended a particular strategy and the other implications of that strategy. So to achieve objective two, mean was used to analyze the nominally distributed data. The average of the ratings of the respondents on the traits for each strategy were calculated. So the study introduced the method for assessing the innovativeness of strategies by calculating their rated values on 5 traits. There's a research that actually motivated the study where the author mentioned 4 traits upon which strategies can be evaluated, but adapting it in agriculture and especially focusing on agricultural innovation system, the 5th trait needed to be interaction. So, excuse me, respondents were requested to rate the items on scale of 0 to 10 for novelty. Each strategy should be rated on novelty. How new is it to the farmers? Improvement, how has it helped the farmers to improve their cultivation or practices? Then economics, what is the cost implication of adopting those strategies? Widespread, how accepted or utilized is the strategy across the region or beyond? Then interaction, the relevant agencies or agencies that are supposed to be in direct link with the farmers in adoption of those strategies. How involved are they and what are they doing? So where the ratings was that 0 indicated absence of those traits and 10 indicated high possession of the traits. A trait with a rating higher or equal to 5 indicated significant possession. So to interpret the innovativeness of each strategy, the sum of the averages of the rating were calculated. Okay, any strategy with a cumulation of averages greater than 25 was regarded as innovative enough to align with AIS in the region. The cumulation of the ratings is the innovative index. So the study assumes that the level of expression of the traits is a possible indication of the innovativeness of the strategies. So having looked at these 5 criteria, or rather traits, that the extension agents rated, I took the calculation, took the averages for each trait, so to determine the level of possessiveness of the traits, then went on to add the averages of them, of the 5 traits, to get the index value, which will indicate how innovative the strategy was actually at the rural level, not just recommending and publishing, but at the rural level. So the results are here. A quick look at the items on the table here reveals the strategy that was most recommended. That is irrigation, or sinking boreholes, construction of dams, ditches for water. Invariably, the target of this recommendation, however it was in different studies, was water supply. That farmers need water, especially with varying rainfall patterns now. When the farmers cultivate as expected, the rain will not fall. Most of them experienced serious hardship that water supply became an issue that most studies recommended in the region. Another one was protection of watersheds. So you can look at from strategy 1 to strategy 30, the number of studies out of the 129 studies that were evaluated, 54 recommended water supply, artificial water supply in any form. So number 2 was the protection of watersheds such as mulching and cover cropping. Then number 3 was increased labor and weeding. Of course, if the land preparation pattern has changed as a result of temperature, rainfall, and others, it is important that it's of course important that labor will improve or rather increase to ensure the farmers are able to manage the situation as it appears. Then a quick look at the type, the second column, you'll see AM, AM, AM. Then if you look at the key on the far right hand side, you'll see what they all stands for. A means adaptation. So these strategies, I also took the liberty of categorizing them according to type. Most of the ones recommended are adaptation strategies. A few of them are mitigation. Of course, the difference between adaptation and mitigation is adaptation focuses on helping the farmers now to adjust to current trend in climate change, while mitigation focuses on the strategies or rather approaches the farmers can adopt or any other relevant agencies can adopt to stop or control the future impacts of climate change. So the strategies also, I took the liberty of looking at who is involved. For irrigation, the indications are farmers or government agencies can actually come in to handle this. Example, irrigation, a typical irrigation system involving modern technology might be too expensive for the indigent farmer to handle. But sinking construction of dams and ditches for water collection could be a simple practice that can be carried out by the farmer. Then protection of watersheds, mulching and cover cropping rely primarily on the farmer. So if you go through the ranking, the type, who is involved, you'll find out the descriptions of each strategy where. Then finally, the cost implication. It actually hints on who spends the money, or does the adoption involve the farmer spending more than he should during a normal cultivation period? Of course, sinking borehole or construction of dams and ditches is cost implicative for the farmer. Then protection of watershed. Well, it might be as simple as gathering plant materials from previous cultivation to cover up the topsoil to reduce the evapotranspiration and other means of water loss from the soil. So a quick look at strategy 1 to 30 reveals the classification and the description of the type of recommendations made by studies to help farmers adapt to climate change, especially in crop production in the Niger Delta. So I looked at the innovativeness of the recommended strategies. So this was the outcome of the ratings by the 282 extension agents. The green part indicates the novelty of the strategy, the ratings. So, excuse me. Strategy number 1, for example, was rated 6/10 for innovation. For novelty. Then ability to improve farming. The average of it indicated it was 6. Then how economical is it to the farmers? 3/10. Then widespread. How accepted or how practiced is it in the whole of the Niger Delta region that was the study focused on? It was just 2/10. But a serious issue was the interactive index, which was 1/10, meaning the agencies or the relevant interactions that are supposed to take place is not there at all. So the farmers are left to fend for themselves. If they need irrigation, if they need water for irrigation, they should devise a means to get that. Then a quick look at protection of watersheds, mulching cover, and all that. Also got had 5 ratings for novelty and was rated 7 for improvement of food production or agricultural cultivation, and was rated 3/10 for 5/10 for its economical nature. Then widespread, you can see it's also 5, and interaction is 2. So a quick look at the figure here presented, you'll see that in all the strategies that were rated, the least rated among them all was interaction. Well, we have a mix of up and downs for each of them. Example, if you go to strategy 30, strategy 30, which is establishment of food grain reserves. Its novelty was 6, improvement was 6, economics was 5, widespread was 2, interaction was 2. So interaction seems to be the major missing trait, which has invariably brought down the ratings of most of the strategies. Then a quick look at the table here. You'll find the IVIs, which is the innovative index value. And remember in the methodology, we said, or rather I said, if it's greater than 25, then it is innovative enough to align with the AIS. Of course, the rating for irrigation was 18, as presented in the table. But the highest among all was strategy 24, strategy 23, which is quick processing of crops to minimize post-harvest loss during storage, and it had 32. And if we take a look at it on the graph, figure 2, 23 also had the highest rating. For innovation, it was, in novelty, it was 7. For improvement, it was 9. For economics, it was 5. Widespread, it was 6. And interaction, it was 3. Now, what this simply means is that farmers are no longer preserving their foodstuff or our crop output for sales later when it becomes expensive. You know, when agricultural products are harvested or the harvesting period, most commodity in agriculture becomes cheaper because supply often exceeds demand. Therefore, the price goes down. But what farmers do most of the times is to preserve some to be sold later. But with the changes experienced in their locality, probably due to increased humidity, temperature, and other factors that might be prevailing in their local conditions, in their locality rather, they have decided to move quickly from harvesting straight to processing without preservation. So this probably affected the
Sorry,
food supply, especially
sorry, Michael.
in this.
We have to wrap up in about a minute, if that's okay, please.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, it
Thank
should
you.
be okay. Okay. So it probably reflects the situation in this era, especially the COVID-19 period, where food supply was far, far, far below demand, that people had to risk the possibility of contacting the virus just to solve the hunger problem. So, in conclusion, the efforts of authors in the region in providing solutions to climate change through research is quite commendable and resourceful. However, generating new or modifying existing knowledge and publishing or sharing same only satisfies a section of the multi-sectional interconnected AI system. Now, a quick look at the triangle here shows you the area that this approach actually satisfies, just the agricultural research and development sector. So what happened to policies, agencies, which is to foster the AI system? So focusing primarily or solely on research, especially where significant cost is involved, is actually a problem. So research needs to address that. A way forward would be to modify indigenous knowledge or generate new ones and share them, but as well involve relevant governmental or non-governmental agencies for onward intervention. The intervention could be policy formulation to drive the process of implementation, attract relevant agencies, or provide motivation for stimulating the interests of the end users. So this is geared towards fostering the AI system, which, if it is done properly, food production could be improved and food scarcity could actually come down. So thank you for listening and thank you for participating.